People watching.
Life's an everyday adventure. That's my philosophy. Waking up is one of my favorite things to do. Sometimes I wake up late, sometimes early. Whenever it is, I'm always happy to start my day. Today was one of those late mornings. It felt so good to take my time rolling over and falling asleep again, then again, and again. I tried one more time, but was now too awake. So I hopped out of bed, jumped into my moccasins, and headed for the kitchen. As I was getting closer to the kitchen, I noticed that my parents seemed to be flying around the house. "Good morning, Sweet Pea."
Good morning, Miss Molly.
They each said as they whizzed by me cleaning things up. Still feeling slow after my long rest, I took my time to eat my cereal. Then, suddenly, my mother asked if I was ready to go. "Go? Where are we going?" I questioned. "Sweet Molly, don't you remember? We're going to pick up your grandmother from the airport today." I gobbled up the rest of my cereal. As we took off in the car, my toes began to tingle in my moccasins. The airport was far away, but I knew the trip would be worth it. As we drove, I began to count trees, until suddenly I heard my mother say, "We're here." I must have fallen asleep again. We parked and then walked through the airport to find my grandmother. The loud sounds of airplanes taking off and landing were awesome. I looked through every window I could find to catch the planes moving.
"Delayed,"
my father said.
"I guess we'll just sit here and wait."
"Delayed means not on time, right?" I asked. My father agreed as he and my mother began reading the newspaper they had bought. I decided to sit there for a moment, listening to all of the sounds in the airport. Just then, a large sign began to flash as someone on a loudspeaker said,
"Now arriving at Gate 12.
"Is that our plane?" I asked with hope. My parents both shook their heads no. I watched each person walk through the gate and noticed they were all in summer clothes. But it wasn't summer. They also seemed tan and had some necklaces of flowers. "I wonder where they came from," I said. My mother suggested they might be coming from a tropical island. My mind raced thinking of all the fun things these people had been doing on the beautiful, warm island. The guy with the broken arm probably learned to surf for the first time. The little boy maybe watched a real volcano explode. The old lady likely played cards on the beach with her friends. I couldn't stop. Everyone had a different story, and I was having the best time pretending I knew what it was. Finally, the last person got off the plane. He had more bags of gifts than I had ever seen. As I was inventing who was going to get all of those gifts, a bunch of kids ran by me with t-shirts saying, "Welcome home, Papa!" The gifts went flying as the man tried to hug everyone. Next thing I knew, the sign began to flash again. I looked to my parents, but they shook their heads again as people began to pour out of the plane. They were quite different. They wore very different clothes and spoke a language I had never heard. I had no idea what they were saying, but that didn't stop me from imagining who they were and what they did on their trip. The first lady I saw was so beautiful, she must have been a princess. I bet she had come to buy special fabric for a new royal dress. The very tall man with a big dusty book looked like a magician who was trying to learn new tricks from the old book. Lastly, there was a group of girls all wearing matching shirts and backpacks. I was fairly certain these were famous soccer players. The sign flashed again, and this time I was sure my grandmother would be arriving. I stood up with excitement, only to be pushed aside by some people in puffy jackets, woolly hats, and big boots. "They must be scientists coming from the Arctic," I said. My parents looked at me, then at the people with the wintry clothes. "Could be, Sweet Pea, could be," my mother said as we went to get a hot chocolate. Just as I took the last sip of my delicious hot chocolate, the sign flashed and a new group of people started to arrive. Most of them looked like artists and had many paintings in their arms, all sizes, shapes, and colors. "There she is!" I exclaimed as I ran to give my grandmother a big hug. My grandmother told us all about her trip. She said the best part was her painting lessons, where she learned how to paint people. My grandmother was people watching on her trip, just like I was people watching at the airport. On the way home, we both shared all of the fun things we imagined about the people we saw. People watching is fantastic. Everyone has a different story to tell, whether they know it or not. Molly Moccasins, everyday adventurer.